in IM2. It's a bit of a review from chapter 13 in IM1, where we learned to find congruency of triangles. So let's go through and review the triangle congruency theorems that we learned in IM1. So one of them is side angle side. Angle angle side. Angle side angle. And we also learned side side side. In IM2, we have a new congruence theorem called hypotenuse leg. Hypotenuse leg works only for right triangles. So if I'm looking to the right, I notice that in the letter A, in A we have right triangles. I notice in B we also have right triangles. And C and D also have right triangles. So any of these possibly could be congruent by hypotenuse leg. So what we have to look for right now is we have to look for a pair of hypotenuses that are the same length and a pair of legs that are the same length. So in a right triangle, we know the longest side is always the hypotenuse, the longest side, and then either one of the other sides we call the legs. So in hypotenuse leg, we need to know one hypotenuse and one pair of legs. So it could be either this leg congruent or this leg congruent to another triangle. So let's take a look. In the letter A, all I have is the hypotenuse. So this is definitely not hypotenuse leg. In B, I do have a pair of hypotenuses that are congruent. And because this leg is shared by both triangles, I'm going to say that these two triangles are indeed congruent by hypotenuse leg. If we scroll down in the letter C, we do not have the hypotenuses congruent. There's no mark on these two sides. So this cannot be hypotenuse leg. And again, in the letter D, once again, the hypotenuses are not marked as being congruent, so they cannot be congruent by hypotenuse leg. All right, so let's take a look at which one would be side angle side. Looking for side angle side now. So in this one, I want to know where is the angle that's congruent, that's sandwiched in between the two sides. So let's get rid of some of our drawings here. We already know what B is. All right, well, I just noticed when I came down to D that I have one pair of congruent sides, another pair of congruent sides, and then sandwiched in between, I have a pair of congruent angles. So these two triangles are congruent by side angle side. And indeed, the angle is included between the two congruent sides. While we're down here, let's go ahead and do angle, side, angle. Angle, side, angle. So now we're looking for two pair of angles that are congruent and a side that's included between the two angles. So I notice right here, I have one pair of angles congruent, I have another pair of angles congruent, and a side that's included between those two angles. So we're going to say that these two are congruent by angle, angle, side. So the last one is angle, angle, side. So we notice in A, we have angle, angle, side, angle, angle, side. In number 8, we need to make the appropriate marks on the sides to show congruency by side, angle, side. So we already have a pair of angles. So now I just need to mark 2 sides, and we'll go ahead and mark side NM congruent to segment PQ from one of the pair of sides. And then the last pair of sides has to be from segment OM and from point O to Q. So segment OQ and segment OM must be congruent for side, angle, side. In number 10, we need to make the marks to show angle, angle, side. All right, and let's take a look. Let's highlight the 2 triangles here that we're looking at. Triangle MSN and triangle QRT. And we want angle, angle, side. So it looks like we already have our angle. So we need one other angle and then a pair of sides. So I'm going to place a mark here at angle S and an angle R. Okay, so there's my second pair of angles. And then the sides that would be congruent would be segment SN is congruent to segment RT. And that would make angle, angle, side. Now there's another way to draw this to have congruency by angle, angle, side. So let's take a look at another way. All right, so we started with our first pair of angles. And then I can say that angle SNM, angle SNM is congruent to angle RTQ. Takes care of another pair of angles. And then I can say that segment SN is congruent to segment RT for the other pair of sides. Number 12, we need to show triangles congruent by angles, side, angles. So we need to mark up the sides and the angles in triangle SEC. And triangle PEC. So I notice we already have one pair of angles right here. And so I'm going to place a mark at angle CSE. And I'm going to place a mark at angle CPE. And now I have my 2 angles. Now, because the side must be included between the 2 angles, I'm going to place a mark at segment SE and place a mark at segment PE. So now I have angle, side, angle. Again, there's another way we could have done this. Let's show it another way. All right, so I'm going to begin with my first pair of angles. My first pair of angles given are these 2. My next pair of angles, I could have placed a mark at angle PCE and at angle SCE. So I could have said that those 2 angles are congruent. And then to finish out my statement, the side that is included between these 2 angles would be segment CE. And by the reflexive property, those are congruent to each other since they both share that common side. question number 14, we have to look at the information that's given and then also what information is in the drawing to determine if the two triangles are congruent. So remember, we're going to use 5 different ways. So if we can show any of these 5 ways, then we can say that the two triangles are congruent. So what I know is that DV is perpendicular to TU, which means that we have right angles formed. When we have perpendicular lines, we have right angles. So far we have a pair of congruent angles. Because these two triangles share a common side, we can say that DV is congruent to DV. So we have a pair of sides. But there is no other information here given in the drawing or in the given to give us any additional information, and unfortunately there's nothing that just uses one pair of angles and one pair of sides. So we're going to say that no, we do not have enough information to prove the triangles congruent. Hey, I just got to remember, no, it's paused right now. What did I just say? Okay, 5 different ways. Okay, I
Did
know
I
where
leave my
to go.
keys? Did I leave my keys in here?
Oh dear.
I don't think so. No, I don't see them. We're good.
Huh.
They're on the big black lanyard. I'd see them.
Okay.
Thanks, Dad.
Sure.
Sorry for the interruption.
No, it's okay. Hey, Mom. Okay, so are you heading home right now? Okay, why don't you call me when you're home? Okay, I'll talk to you then. Thank you so much. I'm still in my classroom, but as soon as you get home, I will head over. Okay, Mom. All right, love you. Bye-bye. All right, in number 18, we need to do a formal proof to prove that the two triangles are congruent. And the first thing that you need to do in doing a proof is to mark everything in your drawing that you know to be true. I'm beginning with the given information, whatever's given. We can place some marks, and then we'll take a look at the drawing and see if we can place additional marks from what we already know from previous chapters. So in the given, it says segment WZ bisects segment VY. So the segment that's getting bisected is segment VY. So if VY is being bisected, it means it's being cut exactly into 2 equal parts. So I'm going to take a look at segment VY, and I'm going to put a mark here and a mark here to show that it was bisected. And it was bisected by this segment right here. That was the segment that did the bisecting and cut segment VY exactly into 2 equal parts. All right, so there's the WV is perpendicular to segment VY. And so what they have shown is that because we have perpendicular lines, we have right angles. And by the same token, YZ is perpendicular to VY, so we have another pair of right angles. So far, I have a pair of sides that are congruent, and I have a pair of angles that are congruent. So I just need one more thing to prove that the two triangles are congruent. So I've used up all my given, and what I'm trying to prove is that these two triangles are congruent to each other, and I need one more thing. So I looked in the drawing, and I noticed that I have some vertical angles. I have a vertical angle here and here. And so knowing that now, I have another pair of angles. And so what I have, it looks like it's going to be angle, side, angle. So now that I have enough information, I can go ahead and write all the steps and the reasons in my proof. So let's start with the given. Now here's a case where I don't always use the given in the first step or even the first two steps. Sometimes I use the given later on in the proof. So the definition of perpendicular lines is that they are lines that form right angles. So let's make sure that we have all parts to our angle, side, angle. Angle, side, angle. So here, pair of sides that are congruent. Here is one of my pair of angles that are congruent. And here's my other pair of angles that are congruent. And so I could have rewritten this in a different order, but as long as I have all three parts of congruency, then I can now state that the two triangles are congruent to each other. We're going to follow the same steps that we did in the last proof, and we're going to begin by placing all the appropriate marks in the drawing based on the information that's given. So let's take a look at my given information. I know that I have a rectangle, okay? And so we're going to put some clues in just a minute that we know to be true about a rectangle. Also, it says that angle NMW is congruent. Let's try NMW. That's this angle right here. NMW is congruent to angle XWM. All right, so we have a pair of congruent angles. And then because we have a rectangle, we know that all the angles in a rectangle are 90 degrees. So I can put a 90-degree angle here in this triangle, and I can place a 90-degree angle here in the second triangle. So far what I have is I have one pair of angles that are congruent and another pair of angles that are congruent. And then I notice once again in this drawing that these two triangles share a common side. So this side MW in the triangle on the left is congruent to side WM in the triangle on the right. So we have a pair of sides that are congruent. So it looks like these two triangles are congruent by angle, side. So now I just need to list all three of these in my proof. So let's begin with knowing that we have a rectangle. Knowing that we had a rectangle, we were able to say that angle X and angle N are right angles. And we know that by the definition of a rectangle. So knowing that angle X and angle N are both right angles, we can now say that angle X is congruent to angle N because we know all right angles are congruent. All right, so there's my first pair of angles that are congruent. The next pair of angles that are congruent were the angles that were given. So I have my second pair of angles. Once again, segment MW in the triangle on the left is congruent to segment WM in the triangle on the right. And we say that they are congruent by the reflexive property. So there's my congruent pair of sides. So now I can say